pharaohs from Thutmose III to Ramses II, for example. Probably maybe the Ramses of getting out of here. They, from their point of view, reenacting the history, okay, their interest is the break, not the Hebrews who came as they came and who were enslaved as the Greeks built Python and Ramses. Not the pyramids. We never built the pyramids. 2,000 years before that, most of the pyramids. Over the years, they tried everything, an Odeon, a Bouleuterion, which was the seat of the local council. As you can read over here, this is in the middle of excavation and analysis, whatever. But it seems that in the center of it, here, and and what we do have over here, do you see this semicircular things that we see over here? Is part of this in connection to this. This was an, how do you call it? How do they call it? A basilica. And a basilica, remember, is not an ancient church. No. It's a certain design that of generally the courts. Okay? And a special design, and this is why it will be adopted later on by both Christianity and Judaism. Can any one of you guess what this represents? It does not represent anything that has touched base with yet. The fortification of this wall, like the ramp. Because, friends, as we started in the sign over there, which summarized the history of Ashkelon, they touched base with Crusaders. They touched base. Our friends, the only thing over here to remind us about the possibility of a port, it's not a port, it's docks into the water. This is where the coal boats unload coal from the port.
Richard the Lionheart's dock. His castle's up there, fort. There's the ancient fort down there. Israel found oil over there. Go back up to Richard the Lionheart's fort, the Crusaders' fort.
Loading the new information. So let's go. The size of the ancient city of Ka, you have to imagine all this area built up with houses. Now, since we are not, unfortunately, we are not in ancient Egypt and not in Mesopotamia, you're not going to see ancient remains preserved to the height of 10 meters. So the biblical archaeology is all about something like that. It's plus minus, okay? So everything that we are constructing and everything that all the articles in the biblical archaeology and all the popular and also scientific are based on this and on something like that, not the golden vessels and not the huge temples and not reliefs, but something like that. This is because I imagine that you're all well toured and you have been in all the Bible is describing and was written in this area and not somewhere over there. So this is what we are dealing with, and yet we are succeeding to extract quite a lot of information from these remains. This is because the archaeological studies are trying to, when you're trying to understand the deeper significance, it is sometimes not really important. The visual aspect and the richness and the grandeur is sometimes not the thing that we are looking for. For example, reconstructing the economic conditions of the ancient times, we are during the excavation we are taking the various samples of the various sediments and trying to reconstruct what the people ate and what they drank and how they used the various ceramic vessels. And by the way, this file, I suspect that this is somebody just tried to look for antiquities here, since this area is declared as a national park, but you can't. It's impossible to prevent the visitors just to come into one of those holes and try to find something interesting. So, but these potsherds are actually here, and you can see that it's this in which the site reached its maximal prosperity, the 9th century BCE. In biblical terms, this is the beginning of the divided monarchy, and it's approximately 100 years after the time of David and Solomon, right? And all those neighborhoods were built out of houses which those lines of stones are only foundations. The superstructure, the actual walls, like in traditional villages in northern Africa and in the Near East, were built of either mud or mud bricks. Now, after the houses are abandoned or destroyed, the mud bricks, sun-dried mud bricks, are actually turning back into their original material, into mud. That's why this entire tell is basically, if you are asking yourself, okay, what there is inside of the tell, in terms of sediments, what is it built from? It is not a household dust and it is not the fines, but it is basically decomposed bricks that turn into their original conditions and some stone. Without any rocks, this is the bend. That was basically the huge trench. Circle the entire site, and the length of that trench is more than 3 kilometers. So it encircled the entire site and joined with the river. So it went all the way down the brook, down and to the brook. Now, how do we know that it crossed the field? We use the ground penetrating radar. And the radar also saw the remains of the trench, even in the fields where it is very hard to dig because the accumulation of alluvial material. But over here we actually excavated by hand all this, and we found that there were some ceramic vessels that dated to the same period as the last Stone Age 2, and this is the
That's pottery from around 9th century.
9th century. Yes.
About 100 years after the story of David
And Goliath, according to the biblical chronology, yes. Prevent either counter-attacks of the besieged or to starve them, to isolate them. Think about the Masada and the Roman wall around Masada. That circumvallation was...
So supplies from outside.
Yes, it is outside, and it is and it was built in order to isolate them and to prevent them to break away. Now, this feature is much more much older, of course. It's 800 years older, and it's much more massive. Because, with all respect to Masada, Masada is just one rock, but this site is much larger. So, now, to ask yourself whether such a train, it is not a matter of years. It's a matter of several months, because we calculated the volume of the rock we extracted. We made all the calculations. Now, the rock here is very. Oops. Here's the barbed wire.
This is not from biblical times.
Now, the rock is very soft. You can see that this is a local chalk stone which can be easily broken. So it is not very hard. So, but they had to excavate it to the depth of some 6 meters. It's extremely deep. And it's. Because in order to they cut, and one of the purposes was to protect the besiegers, and they created what the so-called berm. Let me show you the actual remains over there. I'll show you. Don't go with me. I'll show you now. Over here. Do you see it? This is the dump. And the pottery from inside the dump is actually is also of the right period. So they dumped all the earth to this direction because they were probably afraid of coming outside the trench. So all the chips were dumped over here. And these are the very poor remains of the siege towers. As you can see, these are definitely man-made. This is not something which is original. No, this is hewn. Goliath's shirt because it's the names are not only of the same linguistic family. It's Indo-European and Semitic names, for example, but also they're close to the name Goliath or to the ancient equivalent of Goliath, because Goliath is actually the Hebrew pronunciation of the Philistine name that probably originally sounded somewhat differently. And
it's a converted name to Hebrew.
Yes.
But originally, being from a different origin, it might have been pronounced differently. That sounded to the ancient Hebrews like Goliath, and that's what he wrote.
Exactly.
Goliath.
Right, exactly. And so Walat and Al-Wat might have been the original Philistine pronunciation of the name, what sounded like Goliath. Now, it's also important that the names are Indo-European because the Philistines were immigrants from Greece and from Cyprus, and they were Indo-Europeans. They were not Semites, so their names are also different. There's a proper distance so that the two pillars can be pushed to both sides.
Yeah.
So this is the very typical configuration of architectural features.
So what do you think? How did it stand?
Yeah, okay.
The temple.
Now, some of it is covered, but there are two walls of this temple. You can see this wall over here.
Here.
This wall
This is
here, and
already-
then you can see the corner of the wall. Do you see the corner?
the one closer to us or the next one?
The next one. The next here. Now, these are the remains of. These are the walls that actually belong to the temple. You should imagine the long rectangular room, and
This was in the middle, probably.
Yeah, right, exactly.
The pillars,
The
because they
pillars
held the
were-
roof.
Exactly. They were in the middle of the.
So if you dig over here, you might find the entrance.
It is what we are doing. The next season we are basically
Yeah,
going
going
to
to
excavate
take
over
this
here.
to look for the entrance.
Yeah. Now. Storage of wine took place here in those houses, and the vineyards were most probably around it. So this population was agricultural population. Their statistics was agriculture, even though they lived in a relatively large city. Only a few of them were scribes or administrators. Only a few of them. Most of them actually had to.
So when did they put a wine press so close? Was it for maybe temple use or?
There is no contradiction. First of all, there's no evidence here. It doesn't, wine production is not particularly. Now we are going to see something which is earlier than that. On the slope you can see the remains of the Canaanite houses, which are much earlier. They go beneath the layers of the Philistine layers. They are much on the lower level. So these Canaanite layers can be exposed only on the slope, because otherwise we would have to excavate from here all the way 10 meters down or whatever to reach them. But here, this is the illustration how only on the slope the earlier levels can be excavated. Here you can see those well-preserved walls are 5,000 years old. This is the 3rd millennium BCE.
That's early bronze, right?
This is early Bronze Age, exactly. This is early Bronze Age, and these are several well-planned houses. You can see and some entrances and separate rooms. This is just an illustration of the tell. We wanted to explain the Iron Age houses. So this excavation area is represents the Bronze Age houses on the slope. So we can, for example, compare between the material culture of
Tell us from what we see here. The difference, because the colors are different. The mud. So either a different period, different makers, or just because it's different tools.
Well, first of all, it's impossible to date them, to give their date, because
They're not related to anything.
because the indicative
Was this the one that he said Goliath was from?
Yeah, that's where the place.
And what's the name? Goth?
Goliath. Or,
Goliath?
Yeah. Because it said that the Goliath.
So this is the Philistine
the
Goliath,
Yeah, and this is
and
the
then
Canaanites.
lower is the Canaanites.
Yeah.
Lower down on the hill. Well,
Yeah.
basically the whole hill's just a bunch of civilizations that
Yeah.
lived on top of each other.
Yeah,
So
those
you-
are, this is probably 900 years before prison, and this is 3,000 years before prison.
We're looking at 3,000 years Canaanite compared to before Christ.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, I get
and it's not incidental, since modern alphabet developed out of, as you know, out of the Semitic alphabet of the First Temple period, and this is another name, Valat. This is VLT, so we.